Well, theme parks are supposed to be a fun place to get away with friends and family and enjoy yourselves riding rides, eating food, and just being immersed in the lands that are there. But one aspect of theme parks that it's never fun to talk about or really deal with is security, but it is an important aspect and a major thing that obviously the major theme parks are very concerned about, wanting to prevent guests from bringing in items like weapons and other things that they are not supposed to have for the safety of others in the theme parks. And over at Disney, they have a very efficient system with this. As used to, they had a bag check and everybody had to go through the bag check to get before they went into the park. It took a lot of time. You had long lines there. But once COVID hit, they started putting in these Evolv systems where you walk through, and if something is, it sets off the system, they ask you to go to the side, then they do a bag check. But you're all able to have people just walk through continuously, and it's much quicker and easier to get into the parks. And Universal has had the same system they've had for a while, which is basically like when you go to the airport, you put things in a tray, it goes through an x-ray machine, then you go through a metal detector. So have different systems of both trying to do the same thing, which is preventing people from bringing in things that they shouldn't be. But the FTC recently took action against Evolv, which is the company that makes these scanners at Disney World, over deceptive claims about their AI security scanning. So I figured let's read through this article and get some thoughts on it, because I actually know somebody that works in this type of industry, and he's kind of told me a few things that are kind of interesting about these machines. So we're going to read through this and give some thoughts on it. So hi, I'm Jared with Caption Magic. And again, this is from Blog Mickey. And the FTC takes action against Evolv over deceptive claims about AI security scanning. The Federal Trade Commission has taken action against Evolv Technologies over allegations that the company made false claims about the extent to which its AI-powered security screening system can detect weapons and ignore harmless personal items, including school settings. Evolv is the security scanning system at Walt Disney World, uses all of its 4 theme parks and Disney Springs shopping and dining complex. The FTC and Evolv have reached a settlement over the FTC's complaint, which said that Evolv utilized deceptive marketing claims about its security scanning system used at thousands of schools, sports venues, hospitals, and even Walt Disney World. The FTC alleged that Evolv deceptively advertised that its Evolv Express scanners would detect all weapons and made misleading claims that its use of artificial intelligence makes its screening systems more accurate, efficient, and cost-effective than traditional metal detectors. In its complaint, the FTC alleged that Evolv's Express scanners failed in several instances to detect weapons in schools while flagging harmless personal items typically brought to schools like laptops, binders, and water bottles. In the settlement, FTC has banned Evolv from making claims about a variety of product abilities, such as the ability to detect weapons and ignore harmless personal items, the ability to ignore harmless personal items without requiring visitors to remove such items from pockets and bags, weapons detection accuracy, including in comparison to traditional metal detectors, false alarm rates, including in comparison to traditional metal detectors, the speed at which visitors can be scanned, including in comparison to, you guessed it, traditional metal detectors, and other factors such as reducing labor costs. As part of the settlement, Evolv needs to notify select schools about the deceptive claims and offer them a way out of their contracts. While the FTC ruling did say that Evolv systems miss some weapons, it also says that sensitivity settings on the system can be adjusted to catch more weapons, but also increase the amount of false positives. Visitors to Walt Disney World will be familiar with a false positive situation. The vast majority of guests who are stopped for secondary screening at Walt Disney World are part of a false positive alert. In fact, Walt Disney World Security even offers guests advice on how to make the security screening process quicker and avoid false positive secondary screening. Top items that security openly advises guests take out of their bags and hold in front of them while walking through the scanners include umbrellas, eyeglass cases, and other everyday items also alert and require secondary screening. So I can tell you, going through these a lot, one thing that will trigger them are backup chargers, like the ones you plug in for like a phone and things. Those will trigger it. Phones typically don't, but my wife, every time in our bag, and it's usually the things we have for the kids, like snacks and things like that, something will always get flagged, and it seems to be always different. It doesn't have, sometimes it's not consistent. Sometimes it's the bags, maybe it's the foil in the bags or something, but something seems to always trigger it. But it's not uncommon when you're going to Disney World that you're going to be, flagged on this and taken to a secondary screening area. And one thing I have noticed lately, and I did notice this a couple weeks ago at Epcot, is they had this sensitivity turned way up because basically everybody going through these scanners was getting flagged and having to go to secondary screening, which was taking a lot more time. A bigger line was there. So I'm wondering if it had something to do with this lawsuit. Perhaps they were turning up the sensitivity on this because of this, or maybe they, who knows? They could also have some sort of security concern and up it just to make sure. And obviously, I think most people would rather be safe on this situation, but it does lead to people not being satisfied when before they can even get into the park. They have to go through additional security screening. So it's very much a balancing act on this. But I have noticed lately they seem to maybe have turned up the security or the sensitivity on these. In response to the FTC ruling, Evolv said that they do not admit any wrongdoing and that the FTC did not challenge the core product efficacy. Evolv says that the order from the FTC only affects approximately 4% of the installed base. The FTC order does not constitute a recall of the devices, but does limit the marketing claims that Evolv can make going forward. Evolv says that the FTC did not challenge the core efficacy of Evolv's products, including the use of artificial intelligence in its technology. Instead, the focus of the inquiry was related to how the technology was described for a period of time in historical marketing materials. It says, we worked collaboratively with the FTC to resolve this matter and are pleased that the FTC did not challenge the fundamental effectiveness of our technology, and the resolution does not include any monetary relief. We appreciated the opportunity to demonstrate for the FTC our Evolv Express system and our customers' diligence in researching, testing, and ultimately deploying our solution in a myriad of environments. Walt Disney World did not respond to requests for a comment. Back in February, Walt Disney World briefly tested X-ray machines in addition to the Evolv scanners, but has not been implemented. So it doesn't seem that like these things don't work. I think they talked about like a 4% fail rate on here. I think that what they're basically saying here is that Evolv was saying it could detect any weapon, and that doesn't seem to be the case here. Now, from my understanding of talking to a few people who work around this industry and know about these things, first off, these things are very expensive. I think they're like $20,000, $30,000, if not more a piece. They're supposedly using, again, AI technology, but it's not X-ray. It somehow reads weight, and so that's the way it's supposed to be working. So things that are kind of heavier a lot of times can get detected. Obviously, shape of things can do that as well. So I don't think necessarily that these are unsafe. I don't think that, people are walking around Disney World with weapons and things like that. No, I'm sure some things have slipped through. That's just probably, if you look at the numbers of people going to Disney World, it's probably happened. And obviously Disney, I'm sure, is taking this very seriously because they do not want something to happen. Again, not only because they just want people to be safe, but they obviously have a monetary incentive for people to be safe, because if something were to happen, you're talking about a major issue. It would hurt them not only in lawsuits, but potential people wanting to come to the parks. So they have a lot of incentive and motivation to double check these systems and make sure that they're good. So the fact that they were testing other systems, it may not be an indication that they don't like this system. It may just been perhaps them trying another system, a newer system, as I'm sure since these were put in 2020, in almost 5 years, I'm sure the technology on these things has probably rapidly improved, or one would assume. Now, I'm sure these things get updated with new firmware and things like that, but I think this is something that obviously theme parks are going to take very serious, and these newer systems aren't perfect, and it may be what they're kind of going after here. But I don't want anybody to think that like it's unsafe. And there's a lot of qualms I will have about Disney, but I would never say that it's necessarily unsafe. I don't think these things are letting people in with things they shouldn't be, but they're not perfect, which is probably why lately they've turned up the sensitivity, because they probably would rather be safe than sorry. So if you're going to Disney, you may have to go through the secondary scanning, which typically is not a big deal. It goes pretty quick. They wand you, they do a metal detector scan there, and they'll do a light pat down and check your bag. Typically it doesn't take too long. So typically when this happens, if it is a busy day, you can wait a little bit longer. But again, I think most of these places would much rather be safe than sorry. And Universal's, they've been doing this system for quite a while. And for the longest time, Universal's system was more efficient just due to the fact of Disney, you had to always go to a bag check, and they would go through every single bag, multiple bags going through things. Universal's being the scanner like you would see in airports is a pretty standard way to do this, and it still stands, and it's not bad. I mean, they do move through lines pretty quickly, so I don't think that they're a bad system. I am curious maybe what they'll do in Epic Universe, if they'll use systems like this, or maybe they update these systems all over Universal property once Epic Universe comes online. So that will be interesting to see if that ends up changing. But again, AI technology and security scanners, I'm sure, is a massive market that has lots of options here. And both Universal and Disney have very strong incentives to make sure that these systems work. And even if they are very, very expensive, it's much cheaper than the alternative that could happen, and all the issues they could have from that. So we'll have to see if anything changes from this, if Disney ends up changing from these systems. Haven't heard any word on if that's what they're looking at doing, but as of now, it looks like the Evolv systems and the FTC have come to an agreement. And the FTC, again, is not saying that they don't work. They were just kind of going after the claims of it catches every weapon. So it might just be a very selective thing here and just not wanting them to be able to false advertise things that they were saying in their previous marketing materials. But either way, that's going to be it, though, for this video. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel, as we do lots of coverage here of Universal Studios, Epic Universe, Disney World, and pop culture. And let us know in the comments, what do you think about the security scanners when it comes to theme parks? Do you like Disney's or do you like Universal's better? Or is there another park that you think does it even better? And until next time, we will see you in the parks.